So, State House will be a beehive of activity. Families, relatives of those that have been appointed as cabinet secretaries will be sitting there. They'll be watching as their kin hold on to the Bible and they swear to serve diligently as cabinet secretaries. Yesterday, the National Assembly's Committee on Appointments presented its report recommending out of the 20 that they interviewed, 19 were to be passed as for appointment, and the House accepted and agreed with that report. So 19 were approved by Parliament, and before Gafla had become VU, President William Ruto had appointed them and gazetted it as an appointment. So they have been appointed. They're going to be taking oath at 9 a.m. today to become cabinet secretaries. That's what we want to discuss. So will this new cabinet win the trust, the faith, and the confidence of the people? The other one was basically dismissed because the public had issues with that cabinet. Will this one do better? Omore Osendo is the governance and political economy expert. He's our guest this morning. Con, good morning.
Morning, Eric. Morning, City.
Morning.
How are you?
Good, I'm good.
Finally, you're seated at the hot seat of the city.
Yes, I've always escorted people here. Today, I'm seated here.
Today, you are the one.
Yep.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Karibu sana. City will give you the day's proverb.
Yes. Our proverbs for the whole of this week have been from the Republic of Botswana. Our proverb for the previous week and the week after this are all from landlocked countries of Africa. So this is your opportunity to tell us how your geography class has fared in school. Mention one landlocked country which isn't Uganda.
Rwanda. I think. Yeah. Rwanda.
It is.
Yes.
It's very landlocked.
Extremely landlocked.
It's extremely landlocked. We agree with you.
Very much so.
Very much so. Okay, the proverb.
It's from?
The Republic of Botswana. Also landlocked. Okay? Son-in-law, hasten. The marriage cattle are gone.
Son-in-law, hasten. The marriage cattle are gone. I know, right?
Yeah, because ideally, son-in-law hasten. If the son-in-law is bringing marriage cattle, sons-in-law bring the marriage cattle to where they're going to marry. Son-in-law hasten, the marriage cattle is gone could mean that it could be figurative of your marriage or your wife is getting out of your grasp.
That possibility exists, yes?
Yeah, and so hasten and save that.
Because that kurudisha ng'ombe.
Haki hakuna refund.
Kuna refund.
Yes.
Huyu akienda.
Refund on used goods. Hakuna.
Goods once sold.
Not refundable.
Not refundable.
So you think it's basically telling the son-in-law, take care of your family.
Take care of your home.
Take care of your home.
Yeah. That's my guess. But city's proverbs are usually very difficult, but that's my guess.
Yeah, city's proverbs are like that.
These are not my proverbs. All I do is vocalize them. The people who wrote these proverbs wrote them for a purpose. And Africans understand that livestock is often given as a form of dowry. We all understand that.
Yeah.
And the beauty of proverbs is this: you can't possibly be wrong. Yes, because we're asking for your interpretation, and that's what you've given us. Yes,
True.
We start the conversation with greetings to you from Constant Cap. He says you were his senior in secondary school.
Yes. In a great school we were in together.
Which one?
Strathmore School.
Okay.
well, that's a good school. There's no question about it.
It's a great school.
Thank you.
No, it's a tremendous school. That's why I didn't go there, but I know it was a wonderful, wonderful school.
Yes.
So you were his senior. So you were classmates with his brother Andika. Okay.
I didn't see that one coming.
You didn't see it?
No.
Like that.
He was a good young man. I think he was a sportsman of the year in his year. Yeah, but a very, very good friend of mine eventually.
I'm sure he still knew how to write even then. Constant Cap is known just for riding.
No, by Skelly Baba. Hey, same WhatsApp group.
Okay. The cabinet is going to be sworn in. 19 of the 20 that were interviewed by the parliamentary committee. We saw what the report was saying. We saw the debate in the House with regards to these members. We've seen some reports again in the papers today, but we step all the way back to the day the president announced that he's dissolving his cabinet. Let's just start from there. From that point, what was the president saying when he dissolved his cabinet? What made him dissolve the cabinet?
I mean, those public pressure for him to dismiss the entire cabinet. I think Kenyans initially started with the rejection of the finance bill, but that was really a trigger on so many other issues that Kenyans felt were not being handled well. And they were looking at the top policy-making organ in the country, which is the cabinet, for having let a lot of things slip through the fingers, the arrogance or the opulence, or just a lot of policy issues that were affecting Kenyans, and you know, the feeling that these have not been handled well. So when the protesting public turned on the heat and said, we want this cabinet dismissed, I think the president must have gone back and reflected and said, okay, let's start afresh. And I'll concede on that, amongst a few other things that he conceded on. So I think for him, it was a conceding to the public pressure, and then beginning to recalibrate from there.
Can we say that the public pressure was a vote of no confidence on the cabinet?
Pretty much.
Okay. Yeah. Cabinet as an institution, or cabinet as an institution and the individuals therein?
Maybe a bit of both. But you see, cabinet as an institution is already enshrined in law, so we have it. So I think it was more of the individuals who are seated in there or who are appointed in there, and how some of them may have carried out their duties or handled their dockets and the impact of that on the people. Yeah.
Public reaction after the first 10 were nominated by the president. When he came and said, I have the first list of 10 nominees, what did you read as the mood of the public?
So you had a section of the public that wanted a fresh start. And so when the president brought back 10 from the previous, or from the 21 that he dismissed, that was not seen by some as a fresh start. So you still have a section of the public that is not entirely happy and whose confidence in the cabinet and potentially the president will be affected negatively. Yes.
And then he said, this is just a start. I am still consulting widely and I want to form a broad-based government. He comes again with the next batch and says, now this is the broad-based government. He brings in some of those that he had dismissed. He brings in new fresh faces, and some of the fresh faces are from the opposition benches.
There now we see a flip. So you see, again, a section of the public happy with these opposition members, I think are about 5, who then have been appointed. There are 4 gentlemen, 1 lady.
Later in the second.
Yes, later. Okay, fine. Yes, if you're looking at how then he was appointing. So there are those 4 that he brought in from the opposition. And you see then another section of the public who are like, okay, we don't mind, because I guess that was their side of the political divide. But you then still have, again, those who wanted a fresh start saying, wait, this is not what we were asking for. So it's again a mixed bag. Yeah.
I don't see it even as a mixed bag, really, because if you consider the people who are making the decisions, they are the people who, in one way or the other, have contributed to the position we currently find ourselves in. And I mean all of them. There's no one takes a break on this one here. So when it is them who are making these decisions, after they've been given an opportunity to make a decision that would resonate with change, what are we doing? We're recycling. It doesn't matter whether the person was in cabinet or not. If these are the people whom we've had in the position of what we call political leadership, then what has changed really? Is it that somebody who's never been on this docket has been given the job? Everyone who gets that job in all these dockets comes the promise, all, without fail. I've never heard anyone coming in and saying, me, I'm planning to fail. And if I'm given this job, I'll fail spectacularly. In fact, I will do very little. They never say that.
Yeah.
They always talk about how they'll stop this or start this or carry on with this or change this. The thing is this, we very rarely see any change that you can even refer to as being slightly meaningful. So this lot that have now been brought in, what exactly are they going to promise that will be new? Are we to go by what they told us they would do if they get the job? Are we to look at the track record of what they have been all along and take the view that because it is now a new docket, they'll suddenly change? They won't change. Nothing new will happen. They didn't listen. Yes?
Pressure ko sawa.
Pressure ko fiti.
It's creasing.
Inapandisha kidogo tu.
Pressure is creasing.
Okay, nimetoa mguu kwa pedal.
Hey. Con.
No. City makes an important point. I think if you look at the spectrum of public demand and public response to the president's nominations, you still have a good section of the population saying we wanted a fresh start, so we don't have confidence in this team that you've brought in, because if you're talking about a fresh start, and from what you have said, CT, you are only looking at about 5 who are really like new people from private sector or from wherever, and sometimes it's hard to understand, because when you look at say when the president brought in the opposition members, there was a lot of celebration from especially the regions that they come from, because of the usual thing we have as Kenyans. This is our person.
Finally, we are in.
Finally,
cabinet.
we're here. As someone was saying, we have never had this docket before as a region. So you had all this kind of reactions. But yes, how will it be moving forward? Will they bring anything new? Do we rely on their track record? Do we rely on what they've said? All those questions you ask are critical. But one thing I know that will be different, if they are appointed today, and they take their oath, and I hope they read that oath, because it's a very significant oath that they take. The public accountability that we have seen in the last 2 months alone, that has shifted hugely how Kenyans process and understand and make their demands on public policy has changed. And if they're expecting to get into office and be comfortable and ride their way the next 3 years, I think they'll be mistaken on that.
The political positions that the government appoints people to, in reality, is not anything that's supposed to benefit the country or the citizenry. It never really does. What it does is it benefits a few. There's a cabal, the people surrounding you, the people who sponsored you, the people who supported you. It benefits. And for someone who is considered a very good choice is somebody who benefits his community, and the community recognizes that they have benefited from that person's position. How this translates into benefit from the country, I really am not certain, because how then do you explain it? Because if I have a docket and my community benefits, they will support me. It doesn't matter what wrong I do, they will support me. Okay? Now, this is our norm. This is our reality. And this is what I believe among the things that those who are protesting were saying, look, we don't want this. This is what guarantees that we do not move forward as a country. If anything, we are permanently in reverse gear. We want to borrow 1 trillion shillings. The Auditor General tells you there's 1 trillion shillings that was in our system here and you can't trace it. Which means if we had the 1 trillion shillings, if I'm speaking very simply, we did not need to borrow the 1 trillion shillings we're borrowing. So exactly. And it's this government. It's not another government. There are no alien governments in Kenya. It's just one. So.
And that's the crossroad we find ourselves in. Because with these nominations, you will still have a disaffected section of the public who are still going to push back. But at the same time, I think I want to think that we have changed significantly how we shall be doing our accountability in this country, at least from the public side.
Rapana. Okay, you go on. It's your thing. Let me not interrupt. Please proceed.
You don't agree?
No, that is a knee-jerk reaction.
It was
Just a knee-jerk reaction. You just carry on.
You just carry
he has
on.
reined in his knee. It will not do it again. Yes, please
Just
go on.
Yeah, the standard that we want to then start holding, not just cabinet secretaries, but generally state officers, public officers, paid by taxpayers and given a task to do, has changed, and I think that will go on. So even if the CSs are appointed today and they start their role, I say we're at the crossroads because you're going to probably see two things. One, they continue with their work and we continue with all forms of protest, whatever form they'll take. But two, the pressure to then deliver based on what Kenyans protested about, brought to the fore, and the last 2 months, how we have reacted to the politics and the state of affairs in the country.
Did you get a sense of that from the members of the vetting committee? The National Assembly's
The Committee on Appointments.
Committee on Appointments. Did you get that the members of that committee were actually cognizant that things have changed? Did you get from those candidates, as they were sitting there and they were answering questions, did you feel that they're feeling, okay, yes, I want to also be more accountable. So as I answer this question, I know I'm not answering to these members, I'm answering to Kenyans.
I think the members just stuck to the usual script they've used, which could mean that they probably didn't come in there with the mind that something may have changed and we should take this approval hearing differently. So they started the rule book and asked questions around the dockets these guys are going to manage, about the sectors, issues that have been, that those sectors have grappled with. They brought in a bit of what the public is saying. It was business as usual for me in terms of the committee. In terms of the nominees, they would only then respond to what is brought on the table. And you had a few of them who are experienced and would go a bit of the extra mile. You had those who were just playing it safe, and those who also just did not hack it. I think one of the things that this committee on appointments would have done innovatively, if you read the Public Appointments Parliamentary Approval Act, this committee has the power to bring a member of the public into the room and present evidence on the suitability of the nominees.
The committee has legal powers to co-opt somebody.
No,
to
not
come
to
in
co-opt.
and ask.
You saw the speaker give us the data of the memoranda that came in, about over 600 and only about 180 that were
At the master.
Met the threshold.
Okay, of the law. Nothing stopped the committee on appointments to say, okay, for each CS nominee who has memoranda written on them or sent about them that has met the threshold, let us invite one of them to come in and
directly ask the questions.
directly ask the questions or present the issues and the evidence, and let them respond. That would have been something innovative. And the same act says that between the notification in Parliament by the Speaker and when the committee should table the report, they have 28 days. They've done this process in 15 days. What's a rush?
They still had another fortnight to do this.
Exactly. So we had about 5 nominees per day. That could have even been 3 per day, and you still have time to do your report and time to table it. So I think if the committee may have been plugged into the public sentiment that we've had in the last 2 months, if I was them, I would just innovatively just push out and say, bring someone there.
Now you see why my knee was reacting. Because you said you thought and you were hoping that it would be now different. That this public accountability that has come from the citizens would now be the new order of the day. But we saw what the order of the day is. From those in leadership, what they are showing us, that's the order. The day hasn't changed. They are still on Monday. Us guys on Friday. We moved. There's a story about the intrigues on rejecting the CS nominees. So one was rejected. The CS nominee for gender was rejected, culture and arts. And according to this story by The Nation, there was apparently some, conversation about the Honorable Wycliffe Oparanya, or whether he should be rejected or not. But then the issue of Honorable Oparanya is there an ongoing case investigation? Yes, there's an ongoing investigation. Is there an ongoing civil case touching on him? Yes, there's an ongoing civil case. So what's the bar of integrity when we talk about integrity? We talk about Chapter 6 of the Constitution. What's the expectation? And those are the questions that people were saying. Did we expect to hear such a question being asked of the Honorable Oparanya? He was asked, he said, okay, the only thing I know is that those guys came to my house and they're asking me how I relate with Raila, what business I do with Raila. Is that the truth? Is that all? Should the EACC, for example, like Con you're saying, Parliament can then say, Parliament has wrote to the EACC asking, is there any matter touching on any of these candidates? The EACC writes back and says, we have no ongoing investigations on the candidates apart from this one.
But there's something that arose, Eric, with the question I asked myself was, yes, there are questions that you ask the nominees. If the session that you have with the nominee produces issues that need to be interrogated, the time that was given for that whole process was not exhausted. Was there recourse to say, please come back on this other day so that we can have follow-up questions? Because something as serious as this, you're holding a docket for the nation. I've seen that the hours that were used were sufficient to actually interrogate everything. 1, 2. As we listened to the questions being asked and we also listened to the responses, surely it brought up other things that also would need to be addressed. When would these things be addressed? Lastly, there is the committee that was set up. That's the best we could do. Okay?
With the committee?
Yeah, that's the best we could do, okay, as a country. Those are the questions that we could ask these people here. These are the best thing we could do. How do you get a committee that seems to more or less be in uniform about what they're asking, how they're asking it, the manner in which they're approaching it? Some are even appearing to assist the people who are supposed to be questioned. And, it abrogates so many things. You are talking about integrity. You're talking about... That's why I asked, this is the best we could do. We, people who are supposed to be vetting individuals whom we are going to entrust the well-being and the welfare of this entire nation on. And that is the show that we were...
I think both Parliament and the President missed an opportunity here. Because like Con, you rightly put it to us earlier in the beginning, the cabinet was dissolved because there was no public confidence in that cabinet. We can then therefore also say that on June 25th, Parliament was raided, visited by the people of Kenya to express lack of confidence in Parliament. This was the first major task that Parliament undertook after resuming, right? Save for the other one of just rubber stamping the fact that the people have rejected the finance bill. This is the first major one. It was an opportunity for Parliament to regain the confidence of the public with this, by showing that, yes, we know that the other cabinet was dissolved because of lack of confidence. We want to make sure that we give the president a cabinet that has confidence, even if you're only going to approve one of the 22 members that he's brought to us. They missed that opportunity, right?
Yep. Yes, they did. I think, like we said, I think the commission appointments, which is provided for in the standing orders of the National Assembly, should have sat down and thought that how can we do this differently to reflect the demands of the public on how cabinet should be moving forward. Yeah, I think you had a few members who were quite bold in how they were approaching the nominees. I liked Honorable Naisula Lesuda, for example. I think she was quite insistent on some of her questions. She was quite bold and quite frank in asking some uncomfortable questions. So I agree. I think we should have seen more from the committee and not business as usual. Yeah.
So then now what? Does this new cabinet answer the question that was there before? We do not have confidence in your cabinet, Mr. President. Do you think now the conversation changes? We have a bit of confidence, or we have confidence, or we still do not have confidence?
Does this cabinet inspire confidence?
I think it's a yes for those who. It's a yes for some and a no for some. It's definitely a no for those who wanted a clean start. It's probably a yes for those who feel okay, 50% are new. But I think now the question will be, how can, if they're going to stay on, how can they inspire confidence? And that's the question that they must reflect on and ask themselves. That's the question the president must have when he has appointed them, and that's a question that every other segment of the public and our public institutions must have. How this cabinet must ask themselves, how can we inspire confidence? I think Kenyans were very clear on certain things. Transparency. We don't want to be hearing very serious, highly impactful policy decisions being leaked. And then is when they come out to say, actually, yes, we were doing this. We don't want that kind of thing anymore. Communication. You had CSS who never communicated with the public in the 2 years. Never communicated with the public, never came out to even bother to say anything. In fact, when they were being dismissed, some guys were asking, oh, this guy was in cabinet, Integrity. It's going to be a different ballgame about integrity. There were questions asked in the Committee on Appointments. There are those who had integrity issues, like you've mentioned. Your integrity, who you are when no one is watching, is going to be such an important thing. Accountability. This is what we have, this is what we have used, this is how we have used it, how you collaborate with the people, empathy. Kenyans were really ticked off at the lack of empathy from cabinet. You had a lot of arrogance in cabinet. There's a question that that members in the committee kept asking, will you be a desk CS? Will you just be locked up in your plush office receiving delegations or doing what you're doing on your desk? You want to see an engaging cabinet. Go out and see how the policies are being implemented, see the impact of the policies of your docket, and come back and address that on your desk or at cabinet. So these are the things that Kenyans were talking about, and I think if this cabinet is supposed to regain or increase the confidence of the public in them, they must apply.
There's one CS. There are others, but let me point to one who was very visible, and one saw a lot of activity in this docket. That was Owalo. You saw him all over the place. The other one was Kindiki, but for different reasons, you see.
Yes.
Kindiki, we heard him say very many things, make many, many promises. Those promises fell flat on their bottom. Nothing moved. Okay? Everything that was being queried then is still being queried now. Solutions that were being sought then are still being sought now. He has been returned. Fine. He has been returned. But that, in my opinion, is window dressing. Who runs the ministries is a question we should be asking. And what real power do CSs actually have? That's the question that I want to ask. Because as far as I know, unless there's something different, the only executive CS position is that of Treasury. Who runs it? And if we're talking about the changes that we sought, we focus on the CSS. Should the citizenry not have asked that same question and asked, who actually runs the ministries? Is it the ministers? The answer is no, it's not them. They don't actually run it. They are figureheads, by and large. Are we expecting changes at the level of the PSs? What do we call them now? What do we call them again? Principal secretaries. Yes, exactly. Okay? Why am I bringing this discussion? A lot of the things that the political class does, they take us on goose chases. They give us things to chase after and to talk about and to run after. And we stop looking at what we should be looking at. How competent are our PSs? All these people that we have, all the people who actually run the government and the people below them, the secretaries, how competent are they? And who do they actually take instructions from? In my opinion, that is a discussion we ought to be having. Because you can appoint all these people here. If the PS and the people they work with don't want to work with you, Haki, you will do nothing.
Agreed. Totally. In fact, I used to see people ask, and I think I also ask myself the same question. A place like Treasury, very, very important place that should actually be placed in a neutral space because it serves the whole country. It serves both sides of government, etc. But you've got a system within the ministries led by the PS, who's the accounting officer, and other senior people within the state departments that the PSs lead.
And who the PSs rely on
and who the
to actually run their respective dockets.
Exactly. And they can paralyze the PS if they don't get along.
They can paralyze the minister.
Who are you saying? The PSs?
I am saying...
The ones below the PSs.
Yes, I'm saying that...
The civil service.
These fellows, that is it, the civil service.
Yes.
People who never really change and they're almost faceless, but they are the engine.
And that's just like we were saying yesterday, or was it the day before yesterday? The problem, I think, with our civil service is that it has been politicized.
It has.
Because if our public service was not politicized, then it would remain the professional side. It's still serving the people. The machine would be moving. We're giving the example on the difference with if Kenya went parliamentary as a parliamentary system versus the other parliamentary systems that we see. And we're saying in the UK, you saw the number of prime ministers that kept coming in and going, new cabinets coming in and going, but the public service was the same and the citizens were still getting their service. You see the same even in Japan and Italy and elsewhere. The civil service is still churning and doing its job because it's not really completely affected by the politics of the day, right? Here, new administration comes, watu walikuwa waende. You start seeing senior people being promoted only on account of their affiliation to the political powers that be. So it's completely politicized.
I think the last 1 month that we've not had CSs, we've seen some PSs step up. Let's give it to them. We've not, I could be wrong, but we've not really felt that
Absence of a CS.
Absence of a
How
CS.
can you feel something which didn't exist?
But yes, but true. And you've seen PSs step up. Not all, I mean, there are many. There are like 50 PSs. But you can begin to see a lot of them coming out, taking press conferences, doing quite well, articulating policy issues, including new things. In fact, I noticed, and I wish I wrote it down, but I tended to feel that as I was watching the approval hearings of the nominees and some of the policy issues being raised about those dockets, you tended to see, like the next day or the next 2 days, a PS handling something related. It's like they were all watching and saying ahead, there must be some gaps here that are being addressed. How can we begin to push that? And what does this mean? It could mean two things. One, that we've seen a more robust PS coordination system or mechanism in place with the head of public service having his own forum with the PSs as their kind of like the line manager, but also the prime cabinet secretary having the forum for monitoring programs and implementation of programs, and you had Mudavadi as acting CS for all ministries. We didn't see Mudavadi going to every office sitting on every CS's desk, running everyone saying,
Kujeni sasa mniambie hapa mnafanya nini?
Yeah, it's probably not his style. But you saw, we felt a number of PSs just step up and take charge. And maybe it's because of that coordination mechanism working. But also, we hear rumors that once the president is done with the cabinet, he's going to that next level. And guys have to shine. You have to come out and show that, hey, I'm doing and I'm delivering my job.
Is that really the case? Because from what I've observed over time, the key requirement for holding those jobs is not to do well, but to pander to whoever it is you think is your appointing officer. That really is the basic requirement. How that translates into service for the citizenry is something that you need to explain to me, because I don't often see it. Do you see it?
I mean, you have to juggle those two. I don't refuse that senior people like CSs or PSs must leave room to pander to the appointing authority. And depending on the kind of administration, you see those levels either high or low. Kibaki's time, we didn't have it really, really high and serious. Guys were freed up to do their work. But yes, you have to have that balance. These are senior technical and political roles. A bit of political acumen is important. Even on the CSs, I know we had envisaged with the new constitution that we shall have purely technical, non-political CSs. How we have then interpreted that in the last 10 years is that we will appoint a politician who will then resign from political office, and then they become technical. But eventually you then see that there are some politicians who bring in a bit of that political gravitas needed to run a ministry. A ministry is a minister or a cabinet secretary is one who should be able to understand the impact of government decisions on politics and the impact of politics on government decisions. What I call political economy.
I agree.
So people have been arguing that we should not see politicians in cabinet.
Why not?
That the expectation is that to have technocrats in cabinet. What do you say to that?
Eric, think about it. Whether they're politicians, whether they're technocrats. Technocrats can be politicized, okay? And then they become completely ineffectual. You even wonder where it is they brought that person from. The question that bedevils us has always been, the person, integrity. But the real question is accountability. Because it doesn't matter, in my opinion, who has that particular position. If we have a mechanism, if we have a process by which people know they will be held to account, that technocrat will actually outperform the politician, because they are used to actually just doing things. They are result oriented, they'll focus on results. But with the current system that we have, if you take a technocrat into that position, that's a lamb to the slaughter. That person will not be enabled. There'll be roadblocks at every step they make.
Because it's a very political position.
Very, very, it's entirely political. The politician will be spending their time politicking through getting things done. So how do we get the accountability mechanism to the point where people understand? Looking at these appointments and given the vetting process, that accountability mechanism that we thought had risen up, it's been stepped on again. Because that entire process, everything about it, as I told you earlier on in the morning, these are things that depressions are made of. You look at this thing and you wonder, God Almighty, what on earth is this?
Where are we and where are we?
Yes. What is this? These people who we gave the mandate to lead us, are they not capable of seeing what they are doing and the harm it's going to cause? Can't they see it? Because this is disaster in the making, seriously. You say we are going to have changes. Changing a face doesn't mean changes beyond just that changing the face. What is it that we're complaining about? It's not the faces, but the non-performance of these faces. We were saying what we expect isn't being delivered. That's what we were saying. Not particularly that those individuals are necessarily bad. No, but they represented something deplorable, something that was supposed to happen and didn't happen.
Yeah, and if the new cabinet secretaries are coming into the same system that the previous CSS had,
yes,
then we might just go back to square one.
We're just where we were, never left.
Yep.
So I've got to ask you this question. I've been asking this question of all the guests who come. Do you think this, seeming disquiet among the public on the journey, the nomination of the cabinet secretaries, the vetting into parliament, and people are saying this is just all a sham? Do you think it's just restricted to some urban elite? Do you think the entire country is feeling the same? Do you think what we're seeing across the country in those finance bill protests and the feeling around the finance bill will be the same feeling right now on the new broad-based government?
I don't think it's restricted to the urban elite. The urban elite, of course, quite vocal and have access to a lot of mediums of expressing their disaffection. The impact of government policy is being felt across the country, urban and rural and peri-urban. But this whole process that we've had of approving the nominees, I think there are those who, one, don't care. Two, I think there are those who are like, well, okay, let's move on as a country, and you hear them, and let's see what these guys are going to do. And three, I think you've got the Puritans who are like, this is not what we wanted, we are not happy, and we're still going to agitate. And that's the complexity of Kenya.
Who do you think have the greater numbers?
Who has the greater numbers? I think the majority of Kenyans, adults or those who consciously engage, Gen Z and above, who consciously engage on politics and policy, collectively until probably our parents' age. I don't know if there's a. It's hard to say who was a majority. I'll probably put 30.
We will do a poll.
Different groups have done.
In the next hour, we'll be doing a poll. We'll open the phone lines and we'll ask people, does this new cabinet inspire confidence? And we'll be able to see from the people who call, at least we'll be gauging what do people feel and what are they saying.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.